When The Last of Us Part 2 ended, it left fans divided, heartbroken, and full of questions. Ellie had finally reached the end of her long road of vengeance. Abby was alive but broken, and Joel, the heart of the first story, was gone. Yet in that final quiet moment on the farmhouse porch, as Ellie set down her guitar and walked away, we were left wondering what comes next. If The Last of Us Part 3 ever happens, and it almost certainly will, it won't just be another story of survival. It'll be about rebuilding identity, healing from trauma, and confronting what humanity becomes when there's no one left to hate but yourself. So what could this final chapter look like? Let's try to piece together where the story might go, based on everything we know about Ellie, Abby, and the world they live in. By the time Part 2 ends, Ellie has lost nearly everything. Dina is gone, Tommy is crippled and distant, and the Fireflies, or what's left of them, are still scattered. Ellie's revenge didn't bring her peace. It only left her more alone. That final decision not to kill Abby wasn't weakness, it was clarity. It was the first real step Ellie had taken toward redemption. If Part 3 picks up her story, it likely won't be about revenge anymore. Instead, it could explore what comes after forgiveness, or whether Ellie can ever truly forgive herself. She's lost her purpose. She's immune, but her immunity doesn't matter anymore. The cure is gone with Joel's lie, and the world has learned to live without hope of saving itself. But what if the story forces Ellie to confront that question again? What if there's another chance for a cure? That's one of the biggest narrative directions Naughty Dog could take. Somewhere out there, remnants of the Fireflies might have regrouped, still obsessed with finding a cure for the cordyceps infection. Maybe they've heard whispers about a girl who was immune, a legend that spread across the country over the years. If Ellie were discovered again, she might have to choose, not between revenge and mercy this time, but between her life and everyone else. Would she finally sacrifice herself? Would she do what Joel didn't let her do in the first game? Or would she realize that humanity doesn't deserve saving, not after everything she's seen? Abby's story too feels unfinished. After surviving Ellie's final attack, she escapes with Lev, heading west in search of the Fireflies. The ending suggests that the Fireflies aren't extinct after all. They've simply gone underground, regrouping far away from the chaos of the WLF and the Seraphites. If The Last of Us Part 3 continues both Ellie's and Abby's journeys, it could finally bring their stories full circle. The two women are mirror images, one driven by vengeance, the other by guilt. Their paths have destroyed everything they loved, and yet both have the same dream: to start over. Imagine this: Abby and Lev find the Fireflies. They discover a new community trying to rebuild civilization, maybe on the West Coast or even beyond America. A community that actually feels hopeful until Ellie walks into it. Whether she's searching for the Fireflies or simply wandering, fate could bring her back to Abby's world. And this time, their reunion might not be about hate. It could be about survival. They might have to face something bigger than either of them: a new faction, a new threat, or even a new mutation of the infection itself. One of the most fascinating ideas fans have discussed is the evolution of the cordyceps virus. In both games, the infected are tragic and terrifying, but static. They represent nature reclaiming humanity. If the series wants to explore something new, it might focus on what happens when the infection changes. What if the fungus evolves? What if it begins to think? There's been speculation that the cordyceps could eventually form a kind of hive mind, linking the infected across great distances. In some ways, that idea fits perfectly with the series' themes: the loss of individuality, the blurring line between human and monster. If Part 3 were to lean into that concept, the infected might become more organized, more intelligent, and far deadlier than before. Imagine Ellie, immune to the infection, finding herself hunted not by random infected, but by a connected, conscious intelligence that recognizes her. Something ancient, something evolving. That would give the story a new sense of scale, not just survival horror, but something closer to cosmic horror. Humanity's arrogance coming face to face with nature's ultimate evolution. Then there's the question of legacy. Joel's choices still hang over everything. His lie to Ellie in the first game, that the Fireflies stopped looking for a cure, shaped the entire series. Ellie's grief and anger, Abby's revenge, the countless deaths that followed, all of it started with one man's decision to save one girl instead of the world. If Part 3 truly is the end, it has to bring that legacy full circle. Maybe Ellie finally learns something about Joel she never knew. Maybe she discovers that the Fireflies found other immune individuals and failed anyway. Maybe she realizes that Joel wasn't just saving her life, he was saving his humanity. Whatever the case, the emotional center of the story will always come back to Ellie and Joel, the father and daughter who found each other at the end of the world. Even if Joel only appears in flashbacks, his presence will haunt every decision Ellie makes. She's still trying to understand him, to forgive him, and maybe even to live the life he wanted for her, one not defined by violence. And yet, for all the pain, The Last of Us has always been about hope, the kind that flickers faintly in the darkest corners. Part 3 could finally lean into that, not in a sentimental way, but as a message about survival through connection. Maybe Ellie finds Dina and JJ again. Maybe she builds something new. Or maybe she becomes a kind of wanderer, helping others, finally breaking the cycle of vengeance that's defined her entire life. If Naughty Dog follows the pattern of the first 2 games, the ending won't be clean or comforting. It'll be bittersweet, it'll hurt, but it'll mean something. Because The Last of Us has never been about winning, it's about what you're willing to lose to keep your humanity. No one knows exactly when Part 3 will come, or even if it will. But the clues are there. Neil Druckmann has hinted that a story outline exists, one that would serve as a conclusion to Ellie's journey. And if that's true, then The Last of Us Part 3 might be the final chapter in one of gaming's most emotionally devastating stories. Ellie began as a girl searching for purpose in a world that had none. Maybe she'll end as someone who finally finds peace, not by saving the world, but by accepting it. And that, more than any revenge or redemption, might be the most powerful ending of all. If you enjoyed this breakdown and prediction of The Last of Us Part 3, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into story-driven games and their hidden meanings. And tell me in the comments, what do you think the next chapter will be about? Will Ellie finally find peace, or is her story destined to end like it began, with loss? Either way, one thing for sure, The Last of Us isn't just a story about the end of the world. It's a story about what it means to be human, even after everything has fallen apart.